Okay, so this is a piecewise function. The funky thing about this particular piecewise function is that we have an absolute value for x here. And all this absolute value means is that no matter if it's positive or negative number, it's going to be in there. And for any number less than 1, it's saying it's going for any number less than 1, any absolute value for x less than 1, it's going to be x squared. So I put it into Desmos, you guys, and that's this red line right here. What that means is that if you take a look at here, between here and here is from 1 to 1, right? And anywhere between -1 and +1, all of these fractions, it could be negative 0.5 or positive 0.5. That's that absolute value, right? Input, it's going to still be on this red line. That's the domain for that one, right? Now, let me erase some stuff here. I don't know where that came from. And then for the absolute value of greater than 1 or equal to 1, so it could be -1 and the absolute value is greater than 1, or greater than or equal to 1, that's +1, okay? Or it could be +1, okay? We could rewrite this. You could rewrite this in a different way. Let me show you in the other one. If this is what's confusing you, because it was a little bit weird for me to see that absolute value sign, all that really means, you guys, you don't have to have the absolute value sign. All that really means, the absolute value of x is less than 1, you could rewrite that as x is greater than -1 and less than +1. That's going to give us the same graph, okay? This and this mean the same thing. And for the denominator, you could do it the same way. You either have x is greater than -infinity, but less than or equal to -1, and then we skip the middle part because that's what's here, and for x is greater than or equal to +1 and less than +infinity. So this has two pieces, this -x squared, which makes sense because there's two pieces to that green line, right? And the other one, the red one, is just in between -1 and +1. And they're the same exact graph. Like if you got rid of the domain, okay, if you got rid of the domain, this would be a positive x squared and this would be a negative x squared, and they'd meet right there. But because we did, here it is. Okay, so now let's answer some questions about that. What is f of -1? So if I enter in -1, I'm going to use the second one because that is, if you look at how I have it over here, that means that x is less than or equal to -1, right? Which is true. And I just rewrote this domain in this way. So I would put it in the -x squared. So my output would be -1 squared, which would just be -1. So let's take a look at that graph. Is that true? If I put in -1, my output would be -1. Yep, it's right here. Okay. If I just put in 1, it's going to be negative. I still have to use this bottom one because it's here at greater than or equal to 1. So if I just put in 1, I'm using this bottom part of the piecewise function. It's going to be -1 squared, which is still going to be -1. Okay? And that makes sense because if I put in +1, I get -1. If I put in here, you get here. And I know it looks like that red piece would also be an answer, but remember that would be like the open circle. It doesn't exist there, only from in between there. It's only less than. It's not equal to. All right, and f of 6, if I put 6 in, that's still, it's still going to be here. None of these, the only way we would use this first one is if we had a number in between -1 and +1, but not equal to -1 or +1. So then this would be -6 squared, or I could put that on the outside, it doesn't matter, it's still the order of operations. So we're going to get -36, let's take a look. If I input 6, right, my output is, oh, let's see, I bet if we go down, how do I get out of this thing? Uh-oh. I don't know how to escape. I do not know how to escape from out of here. Ah, I did it. I did it. Then it would probably be -36. I mean, that looks about right. I don't have the exact answer right there, but oh, here, maybe I do. If I put in 6, I get, yep, -36. I can't get exactly, oh yeah, 6, -36. Okay, so it's down here. Cool. And then the very last one, hopefully should be a little bit easier. Maybe I can graph this in Desmos. Let me pause it and see. Give me 1 second.